The Adobe BrowslerLab was built to give designers much more context as they're building their designs and their layouts, specifically around solving cross-browser layout issues. So we're working on this page right here, and I'm just going to hop right over to the BrowslerLab service in a browser and show you the basic features of it. So here we are in Safari, and I'm actually now looking at this calendar page running in its full Ajax glory in Chrome 3.0 on Windows XP, although I'm on a Mac. Now that's the beauty of Adobe BrowslerLab. It's an online service that simply lets you pass in a URL or a page and gives you back screenshots on all the popular browsers and operating systems. So working in BrowslerLab is pretty easy. For most designers, you're usually going to have a preset set of requirements or browser combinations that you need to support for any given project. So we usually start out in the Browser Sets tab just by choosing exactly what they are. In this case, our default browser set, we have everything from Chrome, Firefox on XP and OS X, Internet Explorer 6, 7, 8, as well as Safari variants here to choose between. We expect over time the list of browsers will grow in BrowslerLab. That's another one of the benefits of using this as an online service. In this case, we want to really look at some of the older browsers, so I'm gonna turn off 7. Let's just look at IE 6 and 8. Let's leave on 4.0 for Safari, and I'll turn off a few of these other browsers here. Just concentrate on some of them to make this a little bit quicker. So now we've got a browser set that matches our client requirements. We could create as many of these as we like to manage different projects, manage different types of testing, whatever you really need. But the real guts of the testing happens over in the test pane. Right now we're looking at the one-up view of BrowslerLab, and this just simply lets you look at a single browser. Now we tried to make the service as close to real applications in many respects as we could because we wanted it to feel natural to you as well. So key combinations abound throughout the application. The up arrow and down arrow simply let you scroll through the available browsers. In this case we're looking at Chrome 3.0 and XP, but we also have 5 other browsers captured at this point, and I can just sort of use the little arrow key to scroll through those other browsers, take a look at those screenshots in isolation, which is kind of nice, but usually the real fun starts when you start looking at browsers side by side and comparing them. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom the BrowslerLab window up, make our lab a little larger, and I'm going to start using the number keys. Now we're in one-up view right now. As you can guess, the key combination is the 1 key, and if you hit the 2 key, we'll just go ahead and slide in the 2-up view over here on the right. This lets me now sort of compare that left control browser, if you will, Safari 4 on OS X, which matches what I'm using here, to other browsers. Now my up arrow and down arrow will control that right pane, and let me take a look at different versions. So now I'm looking at Internet Explorer 8 on XP, in comparison with Safari 4. Really handy, for example, me working on a Macintosh to get access to those PC browsers, and of course, if I were on a PC, to get access to those Mac browsers. Very handy way to work. A lot of people use 2-up view when they're trying to solve sort of larger design issues between 2 specific browser combinations or a few. But one of the really cool features that we added in was the 3rd view mode, onion skin mode, where you can actually take and overlay these on top of each other and see really definitively exactly how they differ from one another. There's a little opacity slider up at the top. Just like in 2-up view, you're still controlling one browser on the left and the right. They're just overlaid on top of each other, and we can actually dial back and forth between them. And the animation really does kind of sort of help those problem areas jump right out at you. In the onion skin view, your up arrow and a down arrow, of course, control the browser that you're overlaying with. So we can sort of scroll through those and see, for example, that Chrome 3 is a lot closer than the others. Really handy way to work. Now there's a number of key combinations that we put throughout BrowslerLab. You can get to them right away just by clicking the hotkeys menu here. Show you all the good stuff here. But one of my more favorite ones is hit the R key and bring out the rulers. And with the rulers, we can actually do some interesting things. I'm going to jump back to 2-up view. And when we're in 2-up view now, we can actually use the rulers and guides to really look at very specific areas of our page and really help us understand how they differ as well as how much they differ. So I'm going to go ahead and drag out a registration point, for example, down here to this small region on the side. And what that does is reset our 0 point, or reset the registration directly here. Now that's definitely not what we wanted. I'll just double click this to return this. But you can see what you can do here is actually account for small rendering differences. For example, if I had about a 2-pixel shift to the right, that was just natural in the browser, but I really wanted to overlay them a little closer, I just sort of drag out a couple of pixels from the right here. Kind of set that, and you'll see that it'll go ahead and it bumps that one over on the left, or over on the right, to account for it. We also get the guides overlaid on both sides, so I'm going to drag out a little bit further here. Let's say, sort of compare this double identity thing. Let's just drag this here, and you can see now that I've dragged that guide out, we can see exactly how that guide lines up between the two of them. And again, if I wanted to drag the custom registration point, I just drag that from the upper left, and we could sort of custom register specific areas of the page down below. Now, this is BrowslerLab in a browser, but the real fun is when you use it directly from Dreamweaver. So I'm going to hop back over to Dreamweaver and take another look at this page. As you can see, it's an Ajax page, so it requires a lot of JavaScript to run correctly. But we'll turn on Dreamweaver's live view, and now that we have the rendered version, we can actually use the BrowslerLab panel up here on the right. I'd like to draw your attention up here. You'll see that BrowslerLab panel is actually aware of what's going on in the browser. It knows right now that we're previewing www.checkmagazine.com. But I've been doing some work here, and I'd like to take a look at this page in a slightly different state. In fact, what we're looking over on the website is really just the page that loads in a browser, but I want to see some interactive states. I want to see some different content loaded in via Ajax. I want to see some different interactive sort of states of these interface elements as well, so I can compare those in BrowslerLab. So since this picture here of Siobhan looks a little bit larger than the others, it could affect my design. I'm going to go ahead and click this in Dreamweaver's live view, which loads the content here, but now I can use the BrowslerLab panel to not just preview what's up on the live site, but what's actually being done here in Dreamweaver. Any changes that we make within Dreamweaver specifically. I could, for example, just go ahead and hold a rollover state here, and by hitting the F6 key, I've frozen JavaScript in Dreamweaver. So now I've essentially frozen the state of the page. And by choosing the local, we don't want to use the remote server, the local option up here in the BrowslerLab panel and hitting preview, BrowslerLab panel is going to do something really interesting. It's actually going to turn Dreamweaver into a web server. It's going to go ahead and gather all those assets together. You'll see now it's actually uploading the various assets to the server, just like a browser was making those requests. They're going into BrowslerLab, and I can just keep working here in Dreamweaver. Real sort of key thing is, unlike most browser QE where you have to hop out and work in on another machine or fire up a virtual machine to get your work done. Here, I can just let BrowslerLab sort of do its thing on the side. I can be managing my files, doing whatever, and just keep an eye up here as to the status. Now it's sort of throwing all those assets up there, and in a second it'll start letting me know that it's generating screenshots. And there we go, 1 of 5. And at any point, once it starts generating those screenshots, I could just hop right back over to the surface and start working with it. And one of the cool things about BrowslerLab is you don't have to wait for it. We can see that 2 browsers are already loaded, and now the rest are loading in. I can just go ahead and click on any of the ones that have loaded, and I have them right in Dreamweaver. And as you can see, not only do I have them in Dreamweaver, but I've got them in Dreamweaver with the custom content loaded in and a rollover state applied to it. So this is a great way for you to, BrowslerLab really is a great way for you to preview not just your static pages, but really actually get an idea of how your interactivity is going to hold up from browser to browser without actually having to fire up another virtual machine or go over to another desktop machine. Hope you all enjoy it.